work on this dam that we do not own. The taxpayers don't want to, we have enough problems in this county to spend money on that we don't need to spend money on something we don't own. The last thing I will say, I heard Marion Gadsby last week say she's already working with a group to look at dredging out Silver Lake. And that in itself scared me when I heard that because of all the sediment and problems that are upstream. So I think enough said. Thank you.
Councillor Oliver.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I don't have too much to add either. I've certainly listened to my colleagues and we all know the background. I would remind Council, though, as Councillor Wells did when he put the motion forward to us, that Council has decided previously already that this work should be done. At least a majority of us made that decision, and we have had various hurdles or roadblocks, or however you want to describe them, put in front of us over the last several years that have delayed that final decision, shovel in the ground, perhaps until this evening. Not the least of which was once we finally did tender it, it is a higher project amount than we had originally budgeted for. We all know that. I think we're all relatively happy, if you can be happy about this situation at all, with the fact that the tenders came in as consistent as they did and that we got a reasonable tender given our original budget for this project. I listened carefully to what Councillor Sonnenberg was discussing regarding how the lake has changed behind the dam over the decades, and he is right, there's no question about that. But for me, what that partly also says is that this structure is providing a silt retention function. Always has, always will, as long as it's there and operatable and operating. I am really concerned, and I am in a unique position perhaps around the council table, having been in this business for 30 years before I came a councillor with the LPRCA. And as Councillor Black reminded us, I was the manager there at the time the decision was made to remove Sutton's Dam. It is a different situation. That is much further upstream, et cetera, so I won't go into all of those details. But I'm struggling with the fact that there will be as much or more problem with siltation down through the lower reach of the Lynn River, Black Creek to the harbor. If that dam is removed, then there will be if the dam is repaired. And the next thing that will happen is that if the dam is removed, the silt will be stopped the next place it backs up and slows down, and that's at the mouth of the river in the harbor. So instead of holding silt back behind the dam, we'll be holding silt back, so to speak, at the mouth of the river, which will be that much worse of a problem for navigation. And we've had that pointed out to us by the yacht club and others who I think have that commercial interest, boating interest in mind. So it is a difficult decision for us. I respect everyone's struggle with this. I have reached the conclusion myself from an environmental perspective. It's probably a lose-lose in a way, but I think there will be in fact less environmental damage in the medium to long term should we repair the dam than there will be in the bottom end of the river should we remove it. And the only other thing, Mr. Mayor, I want to remind Council, and I made a point of looking this information up again after we got the letter from MOE a week or so ago. All of the sediment testing that was done in 010 and 011 and into 012, which we did at the request of the various ministries, identified that that sediment that's stored up there above the dam was of a quality that it could be used. It could either be spread on land, or in fact it could even be removed from the channel and put behind berms on site. So the quality of that sediment, I have to correct my colleague, Councillor Brunton and Councillor Sonnenberg, it's not toxic. It was deemed to be acceptable for uses on land. And that's very, very important not to lose sight of that fact. So it's not the big environmental bad boy, so to speak, that some people have suggested to us it is, if you actually look at what the sediment testing report said. And that's what we were reminded of again last week when we got that letter. So, Mr. Mayor, it's a tough one for us. It's been around for a long time. We did decide as a council to go ahead and do this work. It's now simply a matter of saying, Can we justify spending the several $100s more now that the price has gone up in order to do this work? And I think we have to do it. We just have to do it. So I certainly will be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Robinson. And Councillor Sonnenberg mentioned that perhaps if you took the dam out, that he called it the scum and the slimy stuff and whatever, could just flow out in the lake. Ms. Robinson, do you think that, would that pass the smell test?
Through the mayor to council, should council wish to remove the dam, we will be into a full-blown class environmental assessment in order to remove the dam. And should that be the preferred solution coming out of that, we would then be into doing all kinds of ongoing mitigation before we'd be able to do any work on the dam. We would be required to remove all of the sediment that's currently upstream that the dam is holding back. We would be required to do all kinds of environmental testing, et cetera. We do not have the ability to simply remove the dam and let everything go downstream. We would have to mitigate and remove all of that before we could actually remove the dam from where it currently sits.
But we've heard from Councillor Oliver that there are no contaminants basically in the silt. Oh.
No, there's a variety of testing that's been done at various places in Silver Lake. The material in the approximate vicinity of the dam is relatively clean silt, for lack of a better phrase. There are other areas of deposits in the lake that do not meet the same criteria.
Okay, and any dollar value that you feel you'd be comfortable with respect to taking the dam out and removing the silt? How many bucks are we looking at?
Through the mayor to council, we have not explored that, so I'm not sure that I can give you a dollar value associated with it. I can tell you that I have cleaned out stormwater management ponds that are significantly smaller than Silver Lake, and I'm in the neighborhood of 300,000. That's just for sediment removal. To actually remove the dam, remove sediment, et cetera, and they had a lot less sediment in them. It's not an insignificant number that if you were removing the dam, you would not be experiencing an insignificant amount of money.
Okay, so to remove the dam, look after all the silt, and do you think it would come to the $2 million figure that we're looking at to repair the dam?
I'm not sure that staff have not looked at that at all. I'm very uncomfortable giving you an absolute one. I can very comfortably tell you that it will definitely be over $500,000. The dam removal alone would be over $500,000.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Councillor Walls?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, one of the problems that I have is I'm getting old, and I sometimes remember certain things, and I just wondered if other members of council remember the same as I do. Did we not at one time decide that we were going to fix this and repair this dam, and the only reason that we stopped doing it is because there was a electrocution or whatever, and it stopped the entire project? Does that ring a bell to anyone who happened to be on council?
Well, it does with me when, I think it was 2010, when the contracted engineer was looking at the base of the dam, and it was sectioned off, and I believe there was an electrocution accident there, yes.
At that time, did we commit to repair the dam? Or were you looking at repairing the dam? Is that what the project was about?
I believe from the very beginning, the council of the day had passed a motion to put the 1.1 million to look at the possibility of repairing the dam, and I think there was a number of events that's my recollection. Of course, 9 years ago is a while ago. A long history here. Any further discussion on the motion? We do have a motion on the floor. Mr. Clerk, I'm asking for a recorded vote on this, and I'll let you conduct that, seeing there's no more discussion on this motion before us.
Councillor Sonnenberg. Councillor Sonnenberg. No. Councillor Wells. Councillor Brunton. Sorry. Councillor Black, sorry. Councillor Brunton. Councillor Oliver. Yes. Councillor Columbus.
Yes.
Councillor Geisens. No. Councillor Height.
No.
Mayor Luke.
Yes.
5 against, 4 for.
Thank you. Motion
Defeated.
is defeated. Thank you very much. Councillor Height?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Could I ask Public Works about the removal of the steel bridge? I know Councillor Sonnenberg brought that up, and it was recommended that we do that. I believe the cost was
Yes, you may.
$35,000 to remove that bridge.
Through the mayor to council, I'm hesitant to do anything without actually having the engineer review it. As it currently stands, the steel in that bridge structure is helping hold the existing dam in place. If council is desirous of going in that direction, I would like to explore that further with the engineers, and then I can certainly bring back their recommendations for what we should do.
I was under the impression that should that fail, it would incapacitate that bridge, and that the engineer had already looked at it.
The engineer had reviewed the removal of that bridge in conjunction with the repair work to the bridge. If we are not undertaking the repair work, I don't believe that they evaluated simply removing that steel structure off of it and leaving the bridge in its current, or leaving the dam in the current condition. I'm not comfortable with that, with just proceeding to remove that without actually having it evaluated first.
Okay, that's not how I understood it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wells?
Mr. Mayor, just for my little pre-brain, we made a decision, and I respect the decision that has been made. What happens now?
I can't answer that.
So does the bridge just stay there? Does the dam stay there?
Well-
I mean, what's the next course of action?
Well,
We must have some responsibility.
I don't know if we can get that answer this evening. I mean, obviously, the motion before us was to engage Rankin Construction/Engineering to begin work on the dam, and that has failed. So where we go as far as the council wanting to pursue to remove the dam or do some other alternative, I think that remains to see, but I don't think that will be decided right now unless someone wishes to do that. But I think we've dealt with the report. We've had a motion. I mean, certainly if there's any further direction, I certainly will accept that direction, but in the meantime, I guess that's something for down the road. Councillor Wells?
Well, with that in mind, where would we go to seek further direction? Because what we've done is nothing other than to leave things as it is. So I think we have to do something. So whom would we direct this to get some information,
Well,
to give us some direction?
Normally, it would be council that gives staff direction. It would come from council, I would believe.
Well, so you're suggesting that one of us bring forth something to give direction? Is that basically?
Yes, and you may want to sit and think on that for a little longer, or you may want to do it now.
I'd like to have some help as to, from staff, what options might be available now that we've decided not to do anything. What other options do we have available to us?
Well, I think, Mr. Wells, I'm not trying to debate this with you, but I would think if you would like to know what other options are available, I would think I would give direction this afternoon to staff to bring forth those options rather than just sort of kind of jump right in that direction. Councillor Wells?
Well, if that's the case, then I would put forth a motion that we ask staff to bring us back some direction as to what we are going to do and some options as to what we can do now.
That is
knowing full well that we have made a decision that we are not going to repair the dam. So where do we go from here?
That is certainly in order. I'll be right with you, council. The motion is that staff be directed to bring forth options on further action on Meisner Dam, something of that nature. And you're moving that, so I would also need a seconder before we discuss this any further. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Sonnenberg, I'll be right with you, folks. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Wells and seconded by Councillor Sonnenberg that staff be directed to prepare a report outlining options for Meisner Dam, excluding those eliminated by council. Further discussion on this motion, Councillor Brunton?
Just very quickly, Mayor Luke, I wonder, and I don't want to dwell on it, but my understanding is we do not own any of the lake or the dam. Would it not be in order to, all the work we have done on it and looked at it, to pass that on to the province and say, here, we don't own it, we have a concern with this dam, what do you want to do? It's not ours, in my opinion, at least the information I've been provided with. Ask them what they want to do with it.
Well, in all due respect, you can put that in the motion if you like, but I think anything you send off to this province concerning Meisner Dam is probably about the biggest waste of time you'll ever put anything on paper. But you certainly can include that if you wish to add that to the motion. Councillor Wells, do you wish to have that added, or do you think that's a separate item? Your call, it's your motion.
I would prefer that I have direction from Norfolk County staff and not from all the provinces this time.
Okay?
And after we receive that, we might have to look at other options.
Okay, so Councillor Brunton, you certainly can make amendment to this if you wish, but friendly amendment is not in order. Pardon? Mr. CAO, direction?
Well, thank you, Mayor Luke. I think it's fair to point out to council that the 5-4 vote you just had was in fact to not award a tender. You didn't actually specifically vote to not repair the dam. In 2014, I think, I don't have all the chronology in front of me, and that predates almost your entire senior management team, I might add. You started a process that led to ultimately the moment 5 minutes ago. And we brought back prices. You simply, by a vote of 5-4, declined not to go forward with that. That is actually conceptually different than voting to not repair the dam, just so that we're clear. It means on that scope, you could increase. It doesn't mean you couldn't do another tender. It doesn't mean you couldn't reduce the scope downwards or increase the scope upwards or do something else. So I'm not trying to muddy the waters, but I do want you to understand you didn't vote to not repair. You voted not to engage with this contract. So that's all that you've done. It's a lesser thing. There are plenty of other options still on the table. I think your option to refer back to staff, there are a number of things to chew on from the decision you've just made for yourselves, for the community, for your staff. So I think you're on the right track here. We'll try to bring you back a report with a couple of different concepts within, just thematic ones, not, final, detailed kind of ones that might help reinvigorate the debate and the approach to the issue, which at this point I see no better course ahead than that. But to be clear, you just voted not to engage in a tender process to award a contract, frankly.
Thank you. Proceed, Mr. Brunton.
Well, in all respect to our county chief administrator, I realize you're correct in what you said, but the contract was to repair the dam. So can we call another one? Absolutely, I guess we could. But in all respect to Councillor Wells, I still stand by the fact that we don't own anything down there. And I would like to ask the province what they would like to do, because I want to pass the buck to them. And if they said, hey, well, let's go ahead and repair it, and if they pay the bill, so be it. Thank you. So, Your Worship, I'll make that an amendment to that motion. If it stands, fine. If it doesn't,
Amendment here for this, please. Second, just waiting for it. Brunton has moved and Block has seconded that staff be directed to discuss ownership of the dam with the province. Discussion. Wells?
Well, in theory, that sounds like a simple thing, but I'm very concerned about having the province involved in this at all. Knowing the way that the province feels about dams, I'm sure that they will find some reason to take a course of action that I don't think the community of Port Dover would like, which is basically to remove the dam, which is what they have been doing anyway. And probably they will suggest that it will be our cost. And once you give somebody the power to determine what to happen, you can't back up and say, oh, we don't want your solution. So I can't support the second part, and when the time comes, I hope we will split the vote, or the question.
Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I either can support this amendment. You made the comment, and I agree with you 100% reluctantly. We've tried that route years ago with absolutely no success of getting the province, i.e. the MNRF or MOECC, to take any responsibility whatsoever. So I think it would be a waste of time, and it would further complicate matters to try and direct this to the province somehow to explore their ownership. They've already said they don't own it. They've washed their hands of it. I fear that the county is now attempting to wash its hands of it, and I don't think the amendment will be helpful. So I cannot support the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Brunton to the amendment, please.
Well, I wanted it a little more clear, if I may, Your Worship. I really wanted it to go to the province and say, we have studied the dam structurally, hydraulically, we've done all the hydrology, we've done all that, and I would like them to, and again, I say we don't own it, so what do you think we should do with the dam? Period. Here's all the information we have gathered. What do you think? I don't recall that, Councillor Oliver. I looked through the chronological events that I was provided with, and I didn't see anything in there where we asked the province that information. But maybe, I mean, if it goes back much further, maybe I missed it. But I was given a whole list of events that took place and the motions that took place from 2009. And I didn't see that in there, so.
Again, Mr. Mayor, to my colleague, the motion specifically says about ownership, and that's what I thought you were investigating, and that was discussed with them, and the province did say, I think, and unequivocally, that they do not own it and do not wish to own it. So I may have misunderstood your motion.
Okay, well, I'm not just asking for, what I'm saying is, if I may, Mayor Luke, I'm not saying my information says we don't own it, but we have done a lot of work on it. We've investigated everything, again, structural, hydrology, all those things. So let's say to the province, here, we've done all this, what do you think we should do? Because we are in the opinion, and I don't know what the rest of council feel, but we don't own it.
Any discussion further on the amendment to direct staff to discuss ownership of the Meisner Dam with the province? Any other discussion? Councillor Wells?
Well, if they come back and say you own the dam, how are we going to be any different than we were if we don't ask them? We still have the same problem. And I don't think that we should be going to the province. This is our problem, and let's try to solve it here locally. The moment that we get the province involved, they will tell us what to do, and we will not have the flexibility of options. Thank you.
I would like to call the question on the amendment first. The amendment is to direct staff to discuss ownership of the Meisner Dam with the province. If there's no other discussion, those in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is defeated. Why I voted to defeat it? The province told me 9 years ago when I met with them where they stand with the dam. They don't own it, they don't want it. We know for 9 years where the province stand is on this. Back to the motion that staff be directed to prepare a report outlining options for Meisner Dam, excluding those eliminated by council. Any other discussion? We've had some. Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. And yeah, I'm new on this one. It's only been 3 years, and I know you guys have been working on it for a lot longer than that. And previous council might have approved to repair the dam, okay, and had our staff do it. I disagree with that approach completely, so I'll apologize right now. The Long Point Region Conservation Authority are the dam experts. Okay, they have 11 water control structures. Every one of them had a report this year that came to us. They found the ownership of them. They have studies for them. They can apply for grant funding. Very important in this case. WECI funding, water erosion control infrastructure. Sudbury was just awarded $900,000 to automate a dam. So, is there funding out here? Absolutely there is. Is Norfolk County able to apply for it? I'm not sure, but I'm thinking no at this point. So, normally how this should work, and this is how other municipalities do it, you send these type of projects to the Conservation Authority who have the experts on staff. They assess the situation, they send it back to you. If you're going to do restoration, do whatever you want to call this repair job, slop some concrete on it, or do you want to fix it and get the actual working version, they would give you all of that with grant funding in place. Should you decide to go ahead, it gets put in your capital projects, and boom, you either have a lake or a river again. That's how this should go down. We shouldn't be burdening our staff who are not the experts. That's why conservation authorities are there, and that's why they exist. They have access to MNRF as well as the grant funding. And that's how this project should go down. Mr. Mayor, we're looking for options here, and we're barking up the wrong tree is what we're doing. Send it to them, have the report come back. If we decide then, it goes through our budget, and we deal with it then. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Black?
Certainly can't disagree with Councillor Height on this one. I think that at the very least there should be some involvement with LPRCA. They are the organization responsible for many dams throughout Norfolk County and have dealt with them. So if this amendment or this motion passes, I think it would allow for that participation to occur. And in my speech, my main concern was that we never fully addressed options in the beginning. We went directly to fix the dam. That was it. And I think that got us into trouble. If we had looked at all the options at that time, we could have assessed what was in the best interest, comparing one option with the other. But this way, we've only explored one. So it's many other people, many other situations have been left out in the cold. This is the right way to go, is to explore those options. I can support that. So, and hopefully the motion is broad enough that we can bring in, other experts like LPRCA, and if it, we need to explore that and the funding associated with it. Thank you.
Councillor Oliver, please.
Mr. Mayor, just two quick things. First of all, to my colleague, Councillor Height, relative to the LPRCA, I totally agree that they should and must and would be part of the process if this motion passes. I think the big difference, though, there is that all of the dams that LPRCA undertook work on and applied for and received WECI funding, Water and Erosion Control Infrastructure, WECI funding, were their own dams. They own them. They don't own this dam. We're not sure who owns this dam. It would be my personal opinion there would be no chance of getting WECI funding because of that. It is not their dam. I'm going to have to disagree with Councillor Black in terms of this option being looked at before. I clearly remember when this became a big issue for us 7 or 8 or 9 years ago, there were very strong interest groups that brought to us and lobbied us and presented information and proposals to us on the options of taking the dam out permanently and rehabilitating the lake site over a period of time. So I, for one, didn't make my decision with blinders on, not considering other options. I did, and I think council did. And this motion, now that we're heading down this direction, will require those options to be looked at again and perhaps in a different light. So I'm going to support the motion. But I, for one, don't feel we made a blind decision before when we decided to proceed with repairs.
You want to speak again? Last time, thank you.
Well,
I'd like to get on with this. I
back
think
and forth with Councillor
veering
Oliver.
off of
The
the
fact
motion.
is that back then, council was not directed to explore various options. They were not. They went directly to one, yes, and that instigated other people that did not agree with that one. And that's when you heard from that. But this council never directed staff to explore options. Now, we have.
Councillor Columbus?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to mention what Councillor Oliver mentioned about the WECI funds. I do not believe the county is able to access those funds. And with respect to the conservation authorities, they can only access those funds for the dams and water control structures that they actually personally own. So, but it certainly will not hurt to have consultation with some of our staff at the Conservation Authority, just on an advisory basis. We are a municipal partner to the LPRCA, and I think that's a good place to start, and I will be supporting the motion.
Anything further? You've heard the motion. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. I am going to move now to page 31 of our agenda. Deal with these two items before we break. The minutes of our council meeting of 2 weeks ago, June the 12th, are printed on page 31 and beyond. Are there any errors, anything you'd like to bring to my attention before I declare these adopted? Hearing nothing, I'll declare those approved as they are written in our agenda. I would now like to go to page 40. Sorry. Go back, go to page 45, please. These are the minutes from our special council meeting on Thursday, June the 21st. Anything to add or bring to my attention on those as well? If not, I'll declare those approved as they are adopted, as they are written there. Now I am on page 47. These are the minutes of last week's CIC, Council and Committee minutes of June the 19th. It's been moved by Columbus, seconded by Oliver, that the minutes of the Council and Committee meeting of June 19th, 2018 be approved as presented with the exceptions of resolution number 7 and number 8 respecting Holden Ave, which are pulled and will be discussed shortly. Any discussion on the balance outside of 7 and 8 from last week? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Okay, what have I got here? We got 7 and 8, or this is just, they're together, those two, I guess. Okay, I'm going to deal with resolution number 7 first. No, but we still have to deal with it. It's been pulled. So just a reminder that resolution 7 last week, the addition of the sidewalk that would be removed, that was defeated. So we still have to deal with that motion as it is printed. And it says that council remove the addition of a sidewalk from the Holden Ave reconstruction RFP as per the RFP addendum process within the council approved purchasing policy, and that resolution, and that resolution 8 of the CIC minutes of June 19th be deleted in its entirety. Do I have a mover and seconder? This is the motion that was defeated. It's been asked to be pulled to be dealt with again. Brunton has moved. Oh, I need a mover and seconder, or we can't speak to it. That's the procedure. Councillor Columbus?
Mayor, I asked that this motion
Yeah, it is. It's a motion from last week, resolution number 7, that was, and it doesn't matter if it's defeated or it's carried, it's back on the table for reconsider, I shouldn't use that word, to be discussed. So I need a mover and seconder to get it on the floor, and then you can speak to it. Well, just stay on your feet then. There's no sense sitting down and getting up again. Now you can have a seat. I'm just kidding. Columbus has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Black. Resolution number 7, to the motion. Councillor Columbus, thank you for your patience.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I was absent. I was on the Prince Edward Island when you were having your council and committee meeting.
We don't want to hear about that. I want you to hear about this.
Anyway, I had bad Wi-Fi connection, otherwise I would have watched what was going on. Anyway, we have heard loud and clear that majority of property owners on Holden Avenue, I believe it is, they do not want a sidewalk. There's disruption to the driveway, trees, landscape. The sidewalks are out of character with the subdivision neighborhood. There's a high cost to put sidewalks in. They're 5 feet wide, and we always hear that there's a lot of liability associated with sidewalks. People trip and fall over years once they get older. And rather put the dollars that we're going to spend on this 5 foot wide sidewalk into sidewalks that need repair. We all know that there's a number of them around. So the other thing that I noted from some of the emails we had was the Public Works policy indicates consultation with property owners will be taking place prior to moving forward. And we've heard that that didn't totally take place. One party at least purchased property knowing that there was no sidewalk there, and now 6 months down the road there's going to be a sidewalk. And lastly, one of the important things I always see is the Ward 5 councillors, plus the mayor, are voted in support of no sidewalks. And I think that means something, and I respect that. And when I have my issues with Argyle Avenue, that's the way I perceived it also. And a lot of times, the sidewalk in the winter months, when we get lots of snow, the sidewalks are more dangerous to walk on than walking on the street, because the street is looked after by the county. People have to clean their sidewalks, the residents have to clean their sidewalks, and they're not always cleaned up. Hence, it's, in my opinion, a lot of times it's much safer to be walking on the street where it's cleaned off of snow and ice than on the sidewalk. So I will be supporting this number 7 as to the way it's printed, and I hope it's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Columbus. Councillor Black, then Brunton.
I appreciate Councillor Columbus's thoughts on this matter, and it's like we can never win on sidewalks. We keep talking about it back and forth. One person wants a sidewalk, the next person doesn't want a sidewalk. So again, what is in the best interest of everyone? We do have the pathways people that want to promote sidewalks, and I agree with that. Then we have people within the subdivisions, not necessarily on main streets. And in this case, the majority of them, major majority of them, do not want this sidewalk. They didn't have one, so they didn't have one before. They don't want it now. I'm going to listen to them and support their request and support the motion that's on the floor. No sidewalks.
Councillor Brunton and Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Just very quickly, and I read the information here, and I did ask last week about, and I didn't get the information, but I have spoken to Lee since then, but the project was never out last week, so we didn't need an addendum. If you don't want a sidewalk, you just cancel it before it goes out. You need the addendum once it's out to the contractors for bidding. So my understanding is it's still not out for out for tender. So it's a simple case. It's easier to take it out now than it is to negotiate it out later with the contractor. Plain and simple. So I always support the motion with, as put forth by Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Councillor Height.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Is this the second or third time that we've had to deal with the sidewalk? Do you recall that the residents did not want? I know there's Argyle and Delhi. They filled our inboxes up. This one, pardon me? There was 3, right? So the reason why I put the second motion on, that us to be directed for a report, was so that Public Works could revise, or at least we could look at the policy. Do we really want to deal with this every 6 months? No, I don't want to force sidewalks on people if they don't want them. I have people in my area that do want sidewalks. Council will recall we've increased budget figures for sidewalk installation for people that want them. Delhi, some of the sidewalks there are brutal. Langton, my area, I imagine every area. Why are we forcing sidewalks? Let's fix the policy. That's what I'm saying. Do we really want people in here every 6 months or every time we do a sidewalk project? And this staff report in the motion after this one will address that, or at least give us an opportunity to address it. A knee-jerk reaction isn't going to address the long-term pain. Thank you.
Sonnenberg, please.
Councillor Height is absolutely correct. We should adopt a policy and stick to it. You know, the technology exists where the public could be watching the proceedings here, and when the question arises, they could go to their computer and vote yes or no. What are we doing here? Let them decide. Let them come in here and sway us. Let's formulate a policy and stick to it, and let's not be swayed by everybody that comes in the door. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Councillor Black?
Just on comments of Councillor Height, I agree that we should have a policy. I don't believe that the second motion really addresses that. I think that's a totally different motion that says we have a policy already, let's review it. So that's a totally separate policy. I think we need to deal with this situation now.
Any other discussion on this motion to remove the proposed addition of a sidewalk to Holden Ave reconstruction? Any other comments? If not, I'm going to, Councillor Columbus?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, could I have a recorded vote, please?
Mr. Clerk, we've just been asked for another recorded vote. That's in order. Anything else? Councillor Oliver?
Mr. Mayor, I just would appreciate if you could read the motion one last time that
Okay.
we're going to be voting on.
Yes, and I apologize, I was scrambling here, but on page 50 of your agenda, items 7 and 8, we're dealing with item 7, which is the resolution on the floor that reads that council remove the addition of a sidewalk from the Holden Ave reconstruction RFP as per the RFP addendum process within the council-approved purchasing policy, and that resolution number 8 of the CIC minutes of June 19th, 28 be deleted in its entirety. Are you ready for, yes, what else have we got here? Boy, I didn't think this motion was really that difficult. Go ahead.
Mayor Luke, I just, you mentioned about 8 be removed in its entirety, and I don't have a problem with that, but I think Councillor Height raised a good point. Separate motion, but for that would be coming after. Is that okay? Okay?
Well, if this is passed, I'd be surprised if 8 passes, because this motion says it's done.
It's separate
Okay.
Yeah.
You've heard the motion, recorded vote. Let's get her going here. Microphone, Mr. Columbus, please. Thank you.
Councillor Height.
No.
Councillor Geisens. Councillor Columbus.
Yes.
Councillor Oliver.
No.
Councillor Brunton. Councillor Black. Councillor Wells. Councillor Sonnenberg. Mayor Luke.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-4.
Okay, that motion is carried. That means we're not dealing with 8. That motion kicked 8 out. Okay, I think I'm not hearing anything else. Councillor Black?
Would you entertain another motion in regards to the sidewalk policy? Is that appropriate, or
Motion, we entertain
want that later?
Well, I'm going to rule it's not in order at this time.
Not in order?
No, this
Okay,
is
that's
dealing
fine.
with stuff from last week. That's something that can come forward. Pardon?
Policy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get into a discussion here. We have a policy on sidewalks. It's there. This council every week deals with exceptions to policies. Whether it's planning, whether it's sidewalks, whether it's reduction in rental fees per our user fee, that's what this council does. Without people wanting some changes or exceptions to policy, you're right, we wouldn't need us. All we need staff to say, policy says, here it is. I'm going to call a recess till 5 o'clock. Thank you.